And we'll let him in.
And we are live. Is that right, Peter?
That's right, sir.
Good. And everyone, the regular crowd. And lots of feedback. All right. Welcome to Trash Talk Live number 30. January 2023. My name's Ian Maverick, coming to you from sunny Melbourne in Australia. We've got 2 hours or up to 2 hours of trash talk about what we've been doing with our machines and what's coming up and what we're doing this year. So we've got a small intimate crowd this year compared this time around compared to previous ones. So we've got up to 2 hours, but we might finish sooner. I don't have many rules in here, mainly to have your cell phone set to silent, have your microphone set to mute if you're not talking, if possible, and don't swear. The only person who's allowed to swear here is me, because I'm Australian. So, Peter, what have you been up to?
I can't fucking swear.
You can't fucking swear.
Oh, shit.
That's a good start to the thing. Hey, do you know I got kicked off YouTube of all places? Out of the blue, I got a warning saying that that I'm not that I've been cancelled on YouTube for gross misconduct.
Really?
So, yeah, so I followed through their procedure to send them for an appeal, and I figured that if the appeal was too wordy, they wouldn't read it. So I just said to them, I don't know how this can be. I mainly do car and computer videos, and I haven't heard back from them. They haven't put my account back. So I shall be, as it's interesting, I shall be putting my videos on a different place, but the ones that are already up there that people link to still work. So okay. It's mind-boggling. But now I'm at the point where even if they gave me back my account, I wouldn't trust them to continue to keep it live. So I shall find another place to host my videos. But anyway, enough about me. Peter, how's New York?
New York's good. New York's good. I've been busy with a lot of things other than TRS-80s, but I do have one thing I wanted to discuss today. Where is it? Oh, here. I got this tool from Ken Bruckner. It even has his name on it, K. Bruckner, and we call it the Ken Bruckner device. Now, does anybody know what this is that doesn't know actually what it is? Does anybody want to take a guess at what it is? What could that be used?
Something to do with 8-inch drives? I don't know.
You're getting a little warm.
I don't know those specifically.
It looks like a inserter and remover for cards that aren't the full size of a 8-inch card for an 8-inch system.
It will actually work with any 8-inch card system. So it's basically a remover for cards for
it's a knuckle saver.
A knuckle saver. And you can see it has these little hooks that hook behind the card. If you know what the card cage is like in an 8-inch system, not a Model 2 or 16, but the 16B 6000 card cages. So you tuck it back in there and you hook those hooks on the back of the card, and you just kind of pry it out using the handle, and it saves your fingertips, because if you've done that to any degree on these machines, you'll know all of those solder pins end up ripping like your fingertips apart, and you end up having no fingerprints, which is great if you're going to commit a crime, I guess. But it really does a number on your skin, and I've tested it and it works well. So it's a great little tool to have in your toolbox.
Also, the card cage, the sheet metal on the card cage can have sharp edges.
Yes.
Well, which I've snipped the tip of my finger on occasion.
I think Ken is going to make the model files available so you can 3D print this on your own. I don't think he's going to sell them or anything. This is just a prototype, but the prototype is pretty much the final product in my estimation, because it works as So see if you can bug him and get the model files if you want to print your own.
What else, Pete?
I'm preparing for my VCF East exhibit. I'm going to be VCF East in April, and that's going to also be Model 2 8-inch related. My idea is I'm going to have a running Model 2 computer, and then I'm going to have a display with every optional available board that you can install in one of the 8-inch systems. And
So
a
you're
lot
gonna
of
have
people,
a maxed out system that's going to blow the fuses at the place. It would consume so much power. You're going to do a 4 stack of 8-inch 8 meg hard drives as well.
no, I'm going to be mild. I'm just going to have the cards on display. So,
Okay.
a lot of people don't know there are actually probably about 25 different boards that go into these machines. A lot of third-party boards and very rare boards that I happen to have in my collection. I have just about every board that was made by third parties like Corvus, Veritas. There was an x86 board that lets you run CPM 86 on a Model 2. Very rare board. I'll have that on display. So yeah, that'll be fun.
CPM 86 or CPM 68K?
No, CPM 86.
Okay. Well, that would be very interesting. That's cool.
And apparently it could also run early versions of DOS as well on a Model 2. But I haven't seen any proof of that, just a magazine article where they mention it. And apparently it was still sort of like beta software before they gave up on the project. So
Maybe they realized there wasn't going to be the take up of it. But then again, there was at least one 8-inch DOS system, MS-DOS system, the NEC APC, might have been the original APC. But anyway.
no, you know what, the quick story on that company, Veritas Technology, is they developed this board that worked fine in the Model 2 and the Model 16. But when the Model 12 came out, you know, the architecture changed a little bit, and they could never get the board to work reliably in the new B model machines like the 16B and the 6000. And eventually they just gave up. At that by that time, the market had passed them by. So
yeah, okay. And that would be an amazing card to get a hold of. So
yes.
Oh yeah, cool. That's awesome. So VCF, so you're already planning to head out to festivals this year.
Yep, going to take the camper again and camp out on campus. They're very gracious to let us camp right there on the VCF campus. It's so cool to be able to camp out there and spend the night and bring my boy with me. He's not a boy anymore. He's bigger than me, but he
He's
loves
pretty
coming.
big last time I saw him. I was gonna say, yeah. No, that's good. I'll come back to you later, and if there's any news on Tandy Assembly or anything you want to tell us. I know it's early on at this stage.
Yeah.
So let's see, newbies. We got Al. Hey Al, how you going? G'day, mate.
Well,
First time here, long time listener, something like that.
yeah. Well, I just listened to one episode, but future long time listener.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Dusty Al was one of the winners of our competition. So he, I've shipped him his prize, and he wanted to come along and just say hi to us. So generally, what we do with new people, Al, is in 25 words or less, though it can be more than 25 words. And you just tell us how you got into TRS-80s and what you do now with them.
Oh, I guess I first used the Model 1 at school in probably 1978 when I was 9 years old or so. Then my parents bought a Model 3 in 1980, and we somehow talked them into upgrading it to discs so we could play Zork. And then it's been all downhill since that, really. In the last year or two, I haven't used the real TRS-80 too much. George's emulator is too good. So I mostly just tootle around with pointless programming projects on that.
George, you're destroying the TRS-80 hobby.
No, he's not. He's
Apologies.
I prefer to think that he's extending the hobby, because if your machine's busted, and it does happen, it can be working one day and then you go over to it and turn it on and it's on the fritz, then you can continue working. Yeah, John H agrees with me there, don't you? Yeah.
Well, my
So,
computer's currently busted, so yeah.
yeah. My 8-inch systems are busted more than they're not. So there you go. So Al, how long did it take you? How many hours did you spend on that entry of yours for the competition?
Oh, quite a few throughout the year there.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, I guess it added up to quite a few days.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
fantastic work, man.
I sort of took my own tour of the history of compression technology, alternated between researching and writing it.
Yeah, yeah. Some fascinating entries we get, don't we, George? George is up there. You can see in the picture of him there. He's the main judge and ideas man for last year's competition. So now that we've had a year as Grace, George, we have to think up another one, which is something I'm not looking forward to.
I've got an idea I'm kicking around, so
I'll get my people to
Dun,
talk to
dun,
you.
dun.
Cool. Hey, thanks, Al. Thanks for joining us. So, hope you enjoy listening to us all talk here. Let's see next. We'll go to George. Hey, I'm coming through Vancouver next week on Thursday. I'm going to be there for 1 hour and 40 minutes on a
1 hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, connecting flight to Toronto.
I'll go stand outside the airport and see if I can catch you running.
I've checked the weather. You won't want to be outside.
No, it's not. It's getting a bit colder, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I'm headed to Niagara Falls again. Anyway, what have you
Cool.
been up to?
Sort of getting back into things after a holiday break. It turns out we missed an entry in the competition. Don Barber sent something in and it kind of fell between the cracks for us, but which is too bad because it was our only 6809 Beast entry, and it came in a respectable, was it 21,644 bytes. So at the moment I'm working on a program to test it out and see that it's all working fine, which I'm pretty sure it will be, because so far the success rate of entrance has been 100%. So people are sending in good code.
We're a high quality community.
Yeah.
Darn
Yeah.
right.
Don't mess around. So yeah, working on that, and I'm also getting all the entrants together to make up a sort of a overview article of the entries of the last contest, and at least give a rough idea of what approaches they worked and talk a little bit about data compression and stuff like that. So that should be pretty cool.
For the next issue.
Or the next issue, yes, sirree.
Cool. Oh, that's good. That's good. Is that about it for what you've been doing, George?
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool. Oh, speaking of the next issue, let's talk to Dusty. Hey, Dusty.
Hi everybody. I
What
trust
time
you're
is
all
it there?
fit. Yeah, little bits to report. I'll start off with a bit of sad news, really. For those regular readers of TRS-80, the guy who sends in the little matchsticks puzzle, Harold, unfortunately, he's gone and died on us. So I've known him for a long time. He was a couple of years older than me. I think he was about 77, 78. But he just suddenly killed over with heart attack. So that just before Christmas. So that was handy for them, wasn't it? But so I shan't. There's one sort of little article missing. I don't know if anybody else wants to submit a sort of little stretching mind competition. I mean, by all means do so. But unless somebody does, I won't go chasing bits. I thought the matchsticks was quite, some of them were quite difficult, mind you. I'm a bit slow on that sort of thing, really. Bits of news, of course. I've been having trouble with the floppy. I'm back to the Aculab floppy tape. All right, sorry guys, but I suddenly cottoned on. I wonder if the thing isn't actually working hardware wise. I know the tapes are a nuisance, but hardware. So I had a quick word with Shane Cooper, who's quite a whiz kid with electronics, and he very kindly offered to sort of have a look at it for me and see if he can get it working on his Model 1. So I sent that off, and I've had an email back from him. He's starting it any time now. So there might be a bit of news in the March issue, but to be honest, I'm not really holding up a lot of hope there, I think. Well, a couple of other bits.
The Aculab is like your Mount Everest, Dusty.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not the Aculab's not a problem now because of George and Peter. We got the ROM off it, and I use it all the time. But unfortunately, it's the software that came with it in the day. There's just no way to get it. It's like the Exotron wafers, for those who don't know. They were a plague in the day. They'd only last, I don't know, a few months, and then they start to shed oxide. It was a problem. But anyway, Shane's going to have a look at it for me, and hopefully we might be able to get a bit further down the line. While I'm on about the Aculab, I came across a super little advert for level 3. And it was in the UK in the day, I think it was about 1979, 1980. And it was advertised as being for sale by Jake Commander. Now, if you remember, he was a regular contributor to 80 US, I think, and 80 Micro, wasn't he? And he was from the UK originally, but I don't know what happened to it later. It goes on. But the description of the product seemed to be, I seem to remember at the time, was different to the Microsoft Level 3. Because if you remember, Microsoft Level 3 had got quite a bit of disk operating systems, but it also got a load of stuff to do with graphics and drawing circles and straight lines and boxes and all that sort of thing. So I remember thinking at the day, it was just too packed with stuff I wasn't interested in. I was really only looking for work-related items, not drawing games and that sort of thing. But I've had a couple of replies about it. I've had most people think it's the Microsoft one, and they're just not mentioning the graphics. But I've had another, again from the States, this was, and they were saying that they think he could remember something along the lines. But we never got past the issue of it with Jake Commander being the Jake Commander or just a Jake. But it's a very strange name, isn't it? But yeah. So as I say, that was quite an interesting little bit. But yeah, I'm pottering at the moment. I'm waiting for approval for digitizing the national TRS-80 user groups, UK's group. All their newsletters from the 70s and 80s. I've got quite a few to do, but I thought I better ask permission because although it doesn't say copyright, I thought at least it's just good manners, isn't it, if nothing else. So I did ask, and I've not heard back from them yet. So perhaps I did email everybody about tonight because it was a UK Euro time scale, which is not too unreasonable, 10 o'clock at night. But so anyway, I've not heard anything about that either, so but we could only sit and wait to see what happens. But at the minute, I think that's it really. It's fantastic, isn't it?
I would just start scanning them now ahead of time and putting them somewhere safe, and then when the approval to distribute them comes through, then they're all set and ready to go. That's what I would do. It's possible if you set it to a group of people, everyone else is kind of waiting for the other person to say, yeah, okay, go for it. So just
I don't quite know if they're actually still. It might be like Sidtrug, that there's all of them there, but it's really absolutely nothing happening. So, but I've actually applied. It's going to take some time, obviously, and that will be quite handy because my internet service provider the website comes up for renewal in March, and I'm desperately short of room at the moment. I think I'm about half a gig left of total capacity, so there certainly isn't enough room at the minute. So what I'm going to have to do is to renew and upgrade and get a little bit more room for my money, I suppose. But we'll have to see. But it's as I say, I'm just really waiting to hear. That's all.
Happens to all of us after a while. So I'm looking at the dates, looking like about around a month till the next issue comes out. So
Yeah.
get your articles finished and in.
Yeah, I say if anybody want, just send anything in.
Yep.
People are under the impression that it's got to be, a magazine type article, so 4 pages. Now it doesn't. I mean, really, 4 or 5 photos and 100 words. It just sort of encourages interest. That's what I think. Because as I always say with Facebook and all the rest of them, once they've been displayed, they become like ephemera and they're lost. It's ever so difficult to go back to Facebook and find something that was done 3-4 weeks ago. It's virtually impossible, isn't it? Whereas if it's in a magazine with an index, it should be traceable. But anyway, that's just me.
Yeah, well, I refer people back to my old longer form articles when they ask a question that I could spend 30 minutes typing a reply, or just say I wrote about this back in this issue. Go get it from here. And that also has the knock-on effect of introducing new people to the magazine. On the I feel kind of weird hearing about the matchstick puzzles thing. I was just thinking the whole history of TRS 8-bit, seeing those matchstick puzzles there, I've not been able to solve one of them. It's either I'm too stupid for.
I thought it was just me.
All right. Yeah. When I see the answer, I'm just like, how did I miss that or whatever?
Easy,
but
isn't it? Yeah. But that was, I say, it just came about. Harold, he was a Spectrum man, Sinclair Spectrum, and we just chatted. I'd known him for years. I worked with him about 40 years ago, I think, first time, and then I met him again later on, and he was saying about it. And in the UK, they bought out a computer that emulates various microcomputers from the day, and it looks like a Spectrum. It's a black box and a keyboard, and you can stick either a ROM in it or and then the software, and then it's games orientated really, but they do it for the Commodore and the PET and some Ataris, and I think they were on about if they'd got the TRS-80 ROMs, they could do that. So I told them how to get hold of the ROMs. I emailed them, but I didn't get a reply. And I suppose in the UK, Tandy's were quite sort of low down. It was mainly Sinclair Spectrums and stuff like that.
I think the problem with that idea, I mean, obviously, so they release something like that, I'd buy it, but I've got a Maxi 64 here, which looks like a Commodore 64. That's based around playing games. It's only came out a few years ago, but it all comes down to the licensing of everything and whether they can sell enough of them to cover the licensing fees and R&D costs and everything. So it's why we've got a thing called the 64 Mini and Maxi and the VIC 20, and they're the big volume sellers. But other smaller, less popular platforms, and by popular I mean Commodore 64 sold 20 million and the Coco sold 300,000 or something like that. So we're talking an order of magnitude. But anyway, so
hey, Matt, it might be a good idea to jump to Joel because I see he's live on the show.
Yeah, I was just looking at. I don't know what he's doing. So let's say thanks for that,
Making me
Dusty,
dizzy is what he's doing.
and we'll jump to Joel. Hey, Joel, I don't know what you're doing there, but it looks interesting. Yeah, muted.
I see Eddie too.
Joel,
Still
Okay.
muted.
unmute you.
There we go. Gosh, sorry, I haven't used Zoom on the phone, but yeah, we're at the meetup, so I was waiting to figure somebody call on me once we got going. But I'm out here with Eddie. He's got his sale table going. Let's see how do I flip this? There we go. So yeah, he's got his sale table. Just trying to get some things moved. But let me walk back in there y'all aren't gonna be able to hear me, or I'm not gonna be able to hear y'all. Y'all gonna hear everything. There's a ton of people in that other room, but let me walk back in there to the 6,000. Make sure it's okay. So yeah, we got a whole. This was like a huge turnout today. There's been a lot of people here.
So what is this event, Joel?
So DFW retro computing meetup. So everybody from the DFW area, retro computer wise, piles in,
Wow.
Okay.
brings all their goodies, and have at it. Fix
Derek
things,
Dittman
sell
around?
things.
Is Dittman there?
It looks like somebody turned off my terminal. Oh, nope, it just went dead. Hold on. Here we go. And she's back. So yeah, I got a little space on the table here for the 6,000.
Pretty.
Looks good.
I'll try to keep my ear close to the phone so I can hear you guys.
Is Dittman there?
I don't see him.
Okay.
I haven't seen him. He usually is here, but I haven't seen him this time.
That's okay. So what's a turnout of that sort of event today?
So what's the do what? Say that again?
Turnout. How many people you reckon come
Oh my
through?
gosh. There has to be over 100.
All right. Okay. So it's
Joel, what's the venue?
What's the what?
The venue. Where is this located?
We are the Dallas Makerspace in DFW.
A lot of people.
Yeah. It's crammed. The temperature difference in this room is by like 15 to 20 degrees.
yeah.
You get lots of excuse me's. But yeah, so got the 6,000 going.
I think
Got
Joel's
a little
gonna
display
set
set
the
up.
show.
So this is the DT100 that what's his name was selling about a few months back. The ones in boxes. I pulled this out. I've had it pulled out of the box, but I hadn't fired it up. I fired it up last night. Works great.
Wow.
And it is beautiful. I mean, it's better looking than the one I pulled out of a computer reset. It has all its keys. It's nice and got its colors pretty much for the most part. It's starting to get some yellow across the top. But yeah, here's Eddie's 6K. That was the corner that was damaged. I mean, other than it being a little smooth, you can hardly tell. It's nice and strong. This is the other bad corner. So it's not perfect looking, but once you step back and you enjoy the machine, you really don't care about those small parts as long as they hold and work.
Yep.
Yeah, it's running on the DGMFM, and yeah, just running off the system. It's sitting here just at a login prompt. I've had a guy come up that he did work with a Motorola on a different system, but used Xenix, and was like, "Oh, this is so cool! I've never seen it on this one." And so he dug through it and showed me a few things. It's really cool. So let me step back out. Sorry, I'm gonna step back out here so I can hear you guys. I've been to Bear Jackson before. Who?
What was the 68K guy's name who worked on Xenix?
There we go. Now I can hear y'all.
What was the name of the guy that worked on Xenix on the 68K?
Oh, I didn't get his name.
Okay.
It's so loud in there. He starts messing with stuff, and it's like, oh, hey, someone's interested in what I brought. But yeah,
That's a great shirt, Joel. You got a great shirt on there.
heck yeah, it's my favorite.
Those
Actually,
are
I
for sale.
bought two, and
Those
I
are for
keep
sale.
the second one in my closet.
Yeah.
Sorry, looking at a cat. Looks like a bobcat. Parking lot. Anyways, but yeah, that's the retro computer meetup out here in DFW. Not too bad. Nice weather day. No rain, thankfully.
For that, Joel. I always like to see the different retro computer meetups. We have ones in Melbourne where we join in with a computer market. We have computer markets here in Australia, and so we just hire a bunch of tables and all of us bring our favorite retro machines along, and we're often the most popular and interesting area of the market, because people come along and say, wow, I haven't seen one of those for years or decades, or I learn on one of those, or even better, I've got one of those in my basement. Do you want it? So I love those
Yeah,
things.
no, it's real sad. There's not a lot of Tandy representation, not a lot of Tandy representation here, or TRS-80 for that matter. But I didn't bring anything this time because I was only bringing the 6000. But next time I'm going to bring some TRS-80s again and try to even out the room a little bit.
I'd have thought, being Texas, it'd be like 90% TRS-80 and TI computers.
Good thing. But man,
Yep.
people look at it like, what? Like, are you serious? You live in Texas? Kidding me?
Represent, Joe. Joel, represent.
Good on you, Joel. All right, let's see. Let's move along to Peter Phillips.
Hello.
Hey, Peter.
To
Hey,
stand
John
up from
Lin-
Vancouver, it's actually a nice sunny day here today. It
it
feels
won't-
like spring.
It won't be by the time I get there.
No, it's never can tell.
Yeah.
Oh, well, one thing is, like, I want to go back on my was it a Christmas wish or New Year's wish? It's like, what I really want is a good decapping and explanation of how the floppy controller works. It's like, it's one of the most complicated chips in those TRS-80s, and still a lot of mystery in there. People kind of say random things like the index pulse resets the state machine. It's like, maybe, but I don't know. Anyways, there's a circuit out there. Someone did the 1772, but it's not really like it's been decapped and someone's worked out the circuit, but you still have to go in there and try to figure it out, and it's a bit much. Other than that, just a little bit of cleanup. On the next version of TRS-80 GP, the Mac and the Linux versions will have stereo sound, and they'll have the drive sound effects in them. Getting the Mac to do the stereo sound was embarrassingly complicated, but it's like, anyways, whenever you do streaming sound, it's like, if you make a little mistake, you get noise, and if you make a lot of mistakes, you end up with endless garbage until you kind of sit down and figure out what's going on. The other thing I don't think it's worth showing, is definitely a work in progress, is that I'm trying to improve the ability to do device debugging on the emulator. Like, you can bring up the Z80 debugger and you see all the registers, and you see the system from the Z80's perspective, like if a read or write happens or a port access. But when you try to talk to the floppy system, or heaven forbid, like the DMA on the Model 2, all you can see is what the commands that Z80 sends and what the result is. So I want to be able to do things like stop when the index pulse happens, or maybe trace between like when the data request comes in. Just mostly for myself, because sometimes you end up with a program that doesn't work, and the problem is really in the floppy side or something, and it takes quite a bit of work to see how that turns out from the main processor.
Are you considering outputting like internal chip state, like the FTC is in this state or something?
Yeah, the first step would be just the internal registers of the FDC, and then some of the key pins. We think about sort of like the simplified schematic, which is that there's a data request, the interrupt request, and a few other pins, I guess the index pulse. To actually show the states of the FDC, I'd like to do that, but they're fake because I don't know what they really are. But it is helpful sometimes to know, because when the system gets lost and you can't understand like why it's not reading the sector, then it would be useful to know and say, yeah, to trap it at that point. But
Well, it would be really cool if, like, let's say you're writing floppy IO code or something, right? and you go and you say, okay, what state's the chip in? And it's like, well, it's waiting for you to, input the next byte or something. You're like, oh crap, I did it wrong, right? Some stuff like that.
Yeah, it could be helpful. The experience has been that the real chip is even tougher. So it can help you get past certain mistakes. But so Amardeep, when he went to write he helped with writing floppies bootstrapping from cassette. And what they found out is that, I guess it's well known, of course, there's the command delays. You have to be careful not to send commands too quickly, otherwise the chip won't register. We also found that on some of their versions of the floppy controllers that you would get, after you read a sector, you'd get 1 or 2 extra bytes coming out of the chip. And if you didn't read those, then it would sort of say that, oh, you didn't read all the data. I think it's probably a bug that it's giving you is being triggered by the CRC at the end of the sector. And then also the timing is just it's unrealistically exact. Like you can write a loop to read from the controller and you can time it. And it's not going to work on the real floppy, because the real floppy, even within a track, the speed varies, I guess, because it was formatted that way. So it's helpful, but it's hard to make I don't know, if the floppy is a real analog device at the bottom end, it's hard to make it realistic.
Hey, Peter, can I ask a question? If I can talk.
Open up a menu so that you can tell it what you're like. You can configure the dip. Like it doesn't have a dip switch. You do it in software. So and it works. That came up on screen. So far, I expect it to.
I don't think Joe was talking to us, right?
You want a sip of water, Peter?
I'm good.
Wasn't sure
I have a
first.
question. Peter, so being someone who doesn't know much about writing emulators, maybe you can explain it to me like I'm 5, but why try to emulate what the FTC is doing? Couldn't you do something like they do with the floppy 80 where they just completely bypass that?
You do that if you can get away with it. Like you can look at the command set for the floppy and do kind of a block level emulation of it and say, okay, read this sector, and you can just return it right away.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with every emulator is that you can get away with like very broad detail, like this is how the device functions more or less. But then you come upon another piece of software and suddenly it breaks because it looks into the device further. One simple example is like TRS-DOS 2.3. It actually, when you go to format a disk, it looks at the index pulses going by and it times them. And if they come too quickly, and it's not very many percent, then it will give us some kind of like motor speed error because they're trying to help the user out. So now your emulator had better send index pulses out at every 30 seconds or every 200 milliseconds or whatever it is. And and then copy protected software or super utility exposes that. Like so ultimately it's like you can fake it, but then if you want to cover broader software, you end up having to fill in all the details.
And is that mostly just the software that wasn't programming to the spec and finding ways around it?
It's hard to tell. Sometimes, sometimes, I mean, with that Pascal PFS file, that definitely, I'm certain it was a bug, and it works by accident because it was accidentally relying on the hardware wait state timeout that's in the controller. So that's definitely a mistake. But in other cases, it's just everybody programs it until it works, and they may have relied on unusual behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a good example. There's some commands that are obscure, like you can read a sector that's normal. But you can also just read the address of a sector. So some things do that. And there are options like you can turn on verify or not, and that changes the timing. So there's a lot in there. I guess that's why I said it's like, well, I'd like to know how the chip works because it makes a difference. I guess one example is that all of the data sheets say is like, well, when you write once a command is executing, that you can't write another command except the special interrupt command D0, D8. But in looking at MAME says, you can write a command all the time. It'll just sort of like switch. So I don't know what's true. But that's sometimes that you can get penalized for being too accurate in a sense that there were some Model 1 games that wouldn't boot because after the ROM loaded the boot sector, then their code immediately started doing things to the FDC. And it was I think originally I considered the commands to be overlapping. So I dropped the command and it wouldn't boot. So I had to fudge the timing on that. And it's like, I don't know if the timing is wrong or if it's true that it will react to the command quickly. So yeah, that's been, a large stream of bugs coming in that just those differences in behavior.
So Peter, you're working on understanding the WD-1772, is that right?
Well, I guess the 1771 is the original Model 1. The 1793 is what's in the most of the other ones.
3 and 4, yeah.
Yeah. And the 1772 is, I think it was in an Atari machine, maybe the ST. So there's a lot of information about it.
Yeah, I was just going to sort of clarify to you. Yeah. So the gate array Model 4, the gate array Model 4P, the 4D, and the last series of Coco disk controllers all use the 1773. And I was looking at the data sheets for the 1772 and 3, and I think they're pretty much the same device, but some signals are inverted. That's the only difference on it. But it seems that the majority of the machines that use the 1772 are Ataris. So it would be interesting once you've compiled all your knowledge on it, just to sort of look at the differences between the 1773 and 1772, since that's what Radio Shack went with in their systems, the 1773.
Is the 3 what's in the Model 2 and the 12?
The 1793, I think.
It's
1791.
Yeah, it's an inverted bus one, but otherwise, yeah, it's identical.
Yeah, the one we're talking about, John, is a 1772 and 1773 is a 28-pin device, and the 1793 used in the Model 3 and 4 and double density adapters and stuff is a 40-pin device. So they're all they'll have their own specific applications. So yeah, cool, Peter. Thanks for the update. No worries.
Welcome.
All right. Let's see. Moving right on. Quinton Barnes. Hey, mate. How you going?
Oh, pretty good. My Model 1's still running. It's set up behind my monitor. I brought
Turn
up
it on and it works.
Yeah, well, it mostly works. One of the problems I had with it, I brought up on the Discord channel, was that its per-com doubler isn't doubling anymore. Single density reads perfectly, double density won't read. I tried multiple drives, multiple cables, no luck. Swapped out the Western Digital FD 1791 for another part, no luck. Nothing changes the behavior. The next thing I have on the list to try is I got a couple of expansion interfaces, other expansion interfaces I was going to just try to see if it'll work. That'll maybe isolate the problem to the doubler or the expansion interface. But if anyone has any suggestions or anything for me to check or try, I'd appreciate it. One of the other things I tried to get working on my Model 1 that I had trouble with is getting an 80-track drive working on it. I prepped a single density 80-track DMK on with NUDOS 80 2.0, and under TRS-80 GP, it boots and runs great. But if I write the DMK out to a physical disk and boot it on my Model 1, it won't come up. So if someone has a single density 80-track DMK that's known to work on real Model 1 hardware, I'd appreciate it to give that a try too. While my Model 1 was set up to test it out, I got out my copy of Hustle, if you remember that game by Peter Trefanos, I think that's how you pronounce it. Back in the day, it used to be one of my favorite games. I had extended it to record individual and all-time high scores on it. So I looked at the old high score list, and that was fun. I have many dozens of names on it, mostly from high school and college. So I got to see a whole bunch of names I hadn't seen in all those years. And some of them I've never seen before either, or at least had no recollection of. But back in college, people would just use my TRS-80 and run Hustle on it when I wasn't in my dorm room. And so I ended up with a lot of names of people I had no idea who they were anyway.
Just to be clear, Quentin, that's Hustle, not Hustler, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Hustle. Yeah. While I had it up, my 24-year-old daughter was home for the holidays. So I had her try the game out. She really hadn't had much experience with older games. She'd had a Game Boy Color and tried out Pong in an arcade cabinet at a computer museum at one point for a minute or two, but that was about it. So I had her give Hustle a try, and she played it for a while, and her review of the game was, quote, fun but slow. One of the drives I tried out on the Model 1 while seeing if different drives would change the doubling problem was one of my new old stock Shugart SA400 drives, still in its original packaging. I picked up a shipping box worth of these drives at an estate sale a few years ago, but I'd never used any of the drives yet. So for myself, I've given them away and donated them to other people. So I finally got one out and cut open the factory tape holding the styrofoam together and removed all the cardboard inserts and such and hooked it all up and gave its first power in 40 years, and it just worked. It was great. It just purred right along like it was right off the factory floor. I was impressed. So Peter, you got a couple of those drives. You got a chance to try them out yet?
No, I haven't, but now I have good reason to. That's great to hear that they work. At least you.
Yeah, well, at least one did. Hope that wasn't just a lucky one out of the box, but I was really impressed. It just worked, and it's been working perfectly.
So it wasn't a box of RMA drives. They were actually new old stock.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so quite happy.
The one challenge you were talking about, the doubler, working with those, is those pins are so delicate on those doublers. When you're working with them, you have to be so careful inserting them.
Yeah, I need to keep that in mind, definitely. And my hands aren't nearly as steady as they used to be when I was a teenager when I inserted it. I still haven't removed it from the drive. When I swapped out to a Mitsubishi version of the controller, I left the card in place. I just pulled the IC off and put the new IC on. So but if I have to try out the other expansion interfaces, I'm going to have to pull it out to do that. And because not only the pins are delicate.
My main concern when I build and sell a doubler is protecting the pin header so that when it arrives, it hasn't been damaged in transit. And so far, I've sold 80 or 100 doublers or something, and all of them arrived safely without the pins bent. But you can't skimp on packaging, which is what makes the shipping a little bit higher. It has to go in a very rigid box with a lot of foam and protective things around the pins. But everyone seems to be able to get them and get them operating. But even finding those pin headers, to build the doublers now is getting difficult. There's so many things are sort of obsolete and not readily available. So I hate it when I have to, end the life of a product because I can't get the parts for it to build it any longer.
Yeah.
But that every doubler I build, like, this is going to be the last one when I run out of this part or that part. But speaking of the doublers themselves, they're pretty simple. It's a straight through connection to the 1771. So that's why it works fine in single density mode. There's it has a simple logic chip that switches over from single and double density operation. And so that's possibly what's the problem with your one. If you find that the 1791 is a good chip, and it's not doing it properly. I put a lead and a resistor on the chip select of both controllers on there, and then try and see what it's doing if it's attempting to switch over to the other controller. So that's one way I diagnose those things.
Excellent idea. Yes, I will give that a try.
Yeah.
Before switching expansion interfaces. That's
yeah. And the only other thing I've seen with them is that they have most of those chips you see on a doubler, because switching over to the double density chip is fairly straightforward. Most of those other chips are the data separator circuit. And so if everything else is working, but something in the data separator has gone on the fritz, then it will switch over to the double density chip, but what it reads in is gibberish and it crashes, or doesn't otherwise, it can't proceed. So that's what what you want to do is get a schematic, or as close as you can a schematic for the PERCOM. Work out which is your switch over chip from single to double density. Check
is
that it's doing
special custom part that's on there.
I don't know. PERCOMs are funny in that at one point they were sandpapering the top of every chip so that no one knew what the chips were, and then they just stopped doing that one day. But
well, on mine there is only one chip that's been sandpapered off. The rest are just 74 LS whatevers.
Yeah.
But that one chip, as I understand, is the special chip that's got the magic in it. But I didn't know if that did I didn't know what the job of that chip was, though. Was it to do the cutover?
Could be. Don't know. So you'll have to just try to find a schematic, and hopefully whoever's scanned it has deduced what that chip is, and it marks it on the schematic or anything. But yeah, check the chip selects and make sure that that when you're booting a double density operating system, it'll go through track 1, and the code on track 1 will say, right, invoke the double density controller. It should change to the next one. And
that'll be really easy to check. So
so
that'll be
give
good.
that a shot. Yeah. Anything else you've been up to, Quentin?
Nope, that's it for this time.
Cool. Thanks for joining us. Good to talk to you. John Elliott the 4th.
Hey there.
How you going?
Doing all right. How about you?
I mean, it's hot as hell here at the moment, but you guys probably thinking,
summer, yeah.
Yeah, I know, because you see, I got my my tie on, but under here I just got my shorts on. So so it's
I think you get gamer score for doing that. Some of you probably saw we had some good Xenix news. Just this morning we got our real-time chip and driver working in Xenix. I was working with Ken this morning, and we finally got the last little bug that was preventing Xenix from being able to access the real-time clock chip. So Ken's posted a picture of the little board. We're using a Dallas Semiconductor 1511 RTC chip. So I wrote a Xenix driver for it, and the data sheet, let's say, was more threadbare than we wanted. So there were a few things we had to work through to try and get everything working. But yeah, this morning we successfully were able to read and write the RTC chip. So we're super happy about that. Got a couple of things we gotta still iron out, but yeah, real-time clock stuff coming soon to a Xenix near you.
You're doing God's work, John.
Oh, I'm so happy. This is something I've wanted like forever for Xenix systems. So yeah. Not much else going on. Just been like doing a whole lot of, debugging on Xenix. I got a new home computer, so it's been quite a bit faster than my, what was it, 12-year-old previous computer that I was doing my dev on. So wow, TRS-80 GP on this thing just screams. It's like running like 5 to 7x in turbo mode. I mean, it's nice. So yeah. Oh, and Peter and George, I love the floppy sound. I don't know why, but it's just like, oh, that's great. That's about it for me, I think, Mav.
Using a vintage computer is a multi-sensory experience. Without the audio, part of the experience, that retro experience, is missing. So it is important.
Yeah, the first time it popped up, I wasn't expecting it, and I was like, oh, I remember that sound. I almost had a tear in my eye.
Oh, that's awesome, John. Hey, it's probably we're about an hour in, so Peter, any news on Tandy Assembly? I know it's early on and we're kind of 8 or more months out.
Yeah,
you guys had a meeting at all?
yeah, we have a date, right? Did I mention it last time? No, it's gonna be September.
Posted somewhere.
Yeah, September 28th, 29th through October 1st. So same place, same
place.
format, everything the same.
Yep. Safe to order to buy airline tickets?
I would say so, yes.
You'd say so, yep. Have you updated the website with all the new info?
Not yet. We'll get to
that. All right. Stay tuned for that. John Elliott, are you coming along the next one?
To the next Tandy Assembly? I haven't decided yet. Maybe.
What?
I mean, I've spoken at the last two. I'd kind of like to have one where I can at least kick back and.
Oh, I didn't. All I said to you,
and Sam and everybody is like, no, you have to go. You have to talk about our new stuff. Like, I'm tired.
You're welcome to come and not talk. You're welcome to come and just enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay, you hear that, Ken? Pete says.
Well, bring Ken along. But,
yeah, Ken's got to come and talk.
Ken's got to come.
Usually around that time of year, I do need some vacation, and please just get me out of the house and out of, not doing work, and so it's.
I'm trying to think of who I can put up on the panel for the trivia alongside Eric Dittman. So I've already got a short list of people I want, but I'm waiting to hear who the keynote is this year, because usually I put the
They'll
keynote.
be a prime target, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool. All right, John, good on you, mate. Aaron, how's Tricks?
Pretty good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can all hear you. Yep.
That's good. Yeah, things are going okay, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah, it's hotter here as it is there.
Yeah, it's I mean, we can't complain. We can, but I mean, no one from up north who are in the freezing zones would care about it. So it's like a first world problem, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's not real too much going on here. There's other stuff going on with me at the moment, as some people sort of know. So yeah, I've managed to make this one. I'm not completely sure about subsequent ones, but we'll see.
Oh, you're hanging in there. That's good.
Yeah.
Yep. Doing much
Yeah.
computer stuff?
Not a lot, just trying to keep it together, really.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
doing
we know.
some computer stuff, but not really anything major.
We're gonna find that Tristas 1.1, Aaron. We gotta find
Yeah,
it.
I want video of a Model 2 exploding.
Okay, we're gonna do that. We gotta do that.
A sacrificial Model 2.
I'll give it up.
Yeah. You got to record the sound so that George and Peter can add that to the emulator.
Exactly.
You need to do it live at TA as a promotional stunt.
There you go.
or just the sound of a TM848 as it chews a disc.
I'd rather blow up a pet.
Good on you, Aaron.
I'm sure you'd be all right with blowing up the much hated 8-inch disk drives that for in the Model 2s.
Oh no, the Shugarts are okay in the Model 2s. It's the ones in the Model 12 and the 16B that are the TM848s are the bane of my existence.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for that, Aaron. We'll talk to you, catch up with you next month, see what you've been up to.
Okay.
Take
Paul
care.
Burrell.
Hello.
Hey, mate.
So been busy with a lot of things, but most of the things that can tell you that I've shown is been working with Ira and doing a lot of documentation scanning for him, and he's posting a lot of manuals and stuff that we didn't have before. We're actually going through quite a few that I can get to him quickly. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't out there that he's posting.
Hey Paul, I missed that thread. Anything interesting? Like really?
Oh, it wasn't a thread. It's been a backdoor thing. If you go to Ira's site, you'll see I think we're probably posted 12, 14 manuals at this point, and I've got another crate full. Oh man, it's easy for me to scan them. It takes a little time, but he's like, I want this format, I want this, and I want that. And it took us a couple of days to get it dialed in for, kind of automatic. And now I can just pull it out of a binder, throw it down, scan the email, done. And he's doing a pretty good job of taking what I'm giving him and turning out some pretty quality stuff. So
yeah, he's awesome.
So yeah, so I've been doing a lot of cleaning over the last couple of months and some other projects, and so that's out there. And then there's a thread that we've been talking about Model 1 power supplies. So I kind of threw out some suggestions there, and I have some parts on order that I'll try out here in a week or so. And if that works out, I'll post a quick design for an alternative Model 1 that should power supply replacement that should fit in the plastic that's available today. And if it goes right, it'll probably be about 6 wires, 2 boards, and you just throw it in the case and maybe fill it full of hot glue or something. I don't know. So
yeah, I was following that thing. I haven't been replying. I just had following it.
Yeah.
My power supply is successful in that it you follow the instructions and it works. I like the ideas of both your power supply and what Tim Halloran's working on, the USB ones. Alternatives. There's lots of alternatives there.
The $1 million question is: would people like a USB-C high power alternative, or would they rather have an AC plug-in? And personally, I would have USB-C. It takes a lot of liability off of it. But a lot of people want it to, hey, it looks like the original thing. It fits in the EI. Let's be done with it. So I was trying to propose something that was that.
So. Yeah. That's the popularity of mine, in that it's in that it's not the most sophisticated or the cheapest way of doing a Model 1 power supply, but it does fit in the EI. It has plenty of power to power everything, and you don't have to really open up the cases or start modifying the boards or anything in order to utilize them. So it continues to sort of, you know, rumble along at a few sales a month, and by all accounts, everyone that's actually bought them has managed to get them up and running and working. So that's they want something that they just plug into their computer. And the only comment I wanted to make on the thread that I saw on the Discord there was that the internal regulation on the Model 1 and the expansion interface of inside the computers of the power supply seems to be designed to allow for a wide range of inputs. It's not really dependent on a specific input. There's an ideal one, but you can go a fair, 10% either way of them, and the computer doesn't care. So that's one thing to bear in mind. And of course, the last thing about my one is that I wanted to produce something that worked in 120 and 240 volt countries easily, rather than something that was limited to one country or the other. But I'm following the thread, and I'll be keen to see what you guys come up with. I think for a lot of people who don't have an expansion interface and just have the computer, something that they can fit inside it is a real handy feature.
Well, the kind of the beauty of the one, in fact, Matt and I kind of had a lot of back and forth, and I think I got him on board with it. But the primary supply I was throwing out there is a Meanwell universal AC, so 90 to 240, and would put out 15 volts. And we're debating, is 15 quite enough for the pass, and we think it's going to be fine. Because he said he was running his off of 13.2, or 15.2, so it's kind of close. But the nice thing is this is an encapsulated module, does universal AC, and Meanwell is fairly respectable. It has all the approvals on the side, CE, TUV, blah, 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 blah. So I'm feeling, from a liability, worrying about the house burning down kind of thing, it's a safe approach for an AC supply. That's why I said, for me, I'd rather probably throw that liability into a USB-C high power one, which you can pick up for what, 15, 20 bucks these days, I think, or plug it into your hub if you've got a powered hub, and then, some sort of adapter board after. But, it's everybody has a different opinion of what they want for a Model 1 supply. So I just thought I'd throw this out there, and I'll try it out. I've got a few that probably going to need replacing over time here. So
yep, true. I've been watching looking at TRS-80.com Iris site and all the manuals that you've been scanning. It's funny watching them pop up, because it's like, I have all those manuals, but I don't have the time or a good enough scanner to do them in any speedy capacity. But what I've sort of looked at is a really handy link he's got in there, is what software's missing. And a lot of the software that from the manuals that you've scanned that he doesn't have, I have them here, and it's easier for me to cat weasel a disk and send it to him to complete the package for the site. And so that one concrete takeoff, concrete estimator program.
Oh, I have all the discs, so I just haven't gotten them to them yet.
You haven't got to them.
Concrete takeoff, that's one of my favorites. I think ReaderShack is like the only major computer supplier that supplied concrete estimation software.
Well, the funny thing is, if you open up the manual,
5,000 stores.
I was going to say, the funny thing is, if you open up the manual, the full source code's in the manual, so you can.
Yeah, I was going to mention that to someone, and those early brown binder business packages, the whole listing for every program is in the back of it. If you've got a week to type it all in, you could get around it that way. But yeah, I'm set up a little bit like Ira, in that I can cat weasel a disk in a few seconds if I've got the disk.
Yeah, I just don't have a cat weasel set up here, and I'm focusing more on those I can throw off on the side and not set anything else right now. I've got 2 or 3 crates sitting next to I've got a real nice copier scanner. And basically I just go stack 50 pages on it, hit my email address, set a couple parameters he wants, and hit go. And here comes the first group of 50 pages, and then throw it on, and here comes the next 50. And we've only ran into an interesting problem on Multiplan, is they've got these side borders that are dark colored along with verbiage on it, and the scanning software actually took it as the edge of the page. So I've got to go back and rescan that with I left it in auto mode, basically, was the problem. So
yeah, is that on every page or one
on
page?
every page? Yep.
Okay, all right. I
So,
was going to say, because I've scanned Tandy 2000 manuals that they did that, and
this one's model 4. Yeah, this one was actually model 4. So
okay, yeah.
But yeah, I'll get them the disc if you don't get them to them. So thank you. That'll give me some time back of trying to get that set up sooner than later. So
It surprises me what's missing in his in his scan collection, because a lot of those packages that you scanned the manuals and sent them to him, I've had those here since they came out new, and I just sort of, I thought all the Radio Shack ones would be the first ones that he would have scanned and DMK'd and everything. So
I've got a bunch more I got to go do, but a couple of these about a year ago, somebody posted them locally. Have all these manuals and a few pieces of software, and I'm like, okay, I'll come pick them up. And they've been sitting for about a year, but as part of my cleanup effort, I've been trying to clean up, and it's like, okay, now is the time. So move on.
Cool. Thanks for that, Paul.
And like I said, I got some other things, but they'll come later.
All right. Good on you. Thanks for joining us again. Tim Halloran, since we were talking about Model 1 power supplies, did the USB project, did you ever solve that ripple line that runs down the screen?
Yeah, I have I guess I can link it in the chat notes. There's a good write-up. I'm guessing I know Matt looked at it. I'm guessing you did as well, Paul, because he knew about it. But I'm thrilled to see they're actually kind of taking that up, because my mod is pretty much a tough one if you're not really comfortable taking your whole Model 1 apart and really doing some major internal surgery. But yeah, I mean, mostly I use the Meanwell helps a lot because that's a linear power supply. A lot of the cheap USB ones are not, but mostly that's kind of how I solved it. And all the machines for folks that were at Tandy Assembly, they might not have noticed this because Vernon was kind of demoing multi-DOS, but the Model 1 that was there, that entire machine was running off USB power. It was the expansion interface and the main system. So but I wish the project with Paul and Matt good luck and get something a little simpler that folks can do. But I'll link the write-up on that in the notes. I've been just kind of busy at work. It's been kind of post Tandy Assembly lull, and then the holidays came, so I was really thrilled. Thank you all who are involved, the Real Trash Talkers, for putting out the new podcast a while ago. That was really fun to listen to, and kind of get back thinking about doing stuff again, because Tandy Assembly will be around the corner. I got to start thinking up interesting, cool stuff to do, and hope to see everybody there.
You muted, Mav.
Thanks for letting me know. Good on you, Tim. Thanks for the update, and always good to have you here. Do you want to be a part of the trivia game next year?
I think Vernon and I might be retiring. That was pretty. I think we're not in the class for that. It was a lot of fun though, and the audience forum was cool. I hope we continue that. That was a lot of fun.
I want a full audience of like all 100 people all trying to answer it, and then stand up at the end of it and do the countdown to 1. See who wins it. I reckon that would be fantastic. We could actually do a multiple camera setup at that time so that we can see all the people being locked out, sitting down as the countdown happens. All right, let's see. Getting through everyone just about. Sean Shinstra, how you going, mate?
Doing all right. Warm and moist, of course, because that's the weather, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, look, so been playing around with both the hardware and the software side of things. I guess slightly inspired by the Wordle challenge. I kind of had a look at compression stuff and realized that the zip stuff hadn't been updated on the TRS-80s to take into account the deflate algorithm. What that means is I had a look, turned out someone had done it for CPM. So as promised, I ported it over from CPM to TRS-80. And I'm now able to, if I get bored and I feel like pulling together a Windows zip file natively, so where you do right-click compress folder, and pop that together and unzip that on your Model 4. Unfortunately, though, the code is a bit large, and with all of the memory requirements, there's no way that you're going to have it on a Model 1 or 3 unless it switches out the decompression methods. So I could do maybe a deflate only, which might just work well enough for undoing Windows native compressed folders. But other than that, I then yeah, while I was following all the compression stuff, realized that gzip is the same algorithm. So Unix gzip files can now also be decompressed. Had to rewrite what the unpacker looked like for the header. So it pulls out all the header information that it can find, gives that to you, and then decompresses your file for you. Then on the hardware side, the old System 80 made its way out of the cupboard. That was a bit of an adventure. It didn't play so good at first. Had some good tips on the Discord to reseat the RAM and ROM. Turned out the ROM was to blame initially. However, if I leave it running, or I try to do something clever like plug in the floppy drives, and by floppy drives I actually mean HXC 2001 at the moment. Instead of running smoothly, it sort of either boots up into the garbage screen and does nothing except for a blank bar that sort of rolls its way up the display. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe something is not tolerating some change in voltage, current, heat, something. So I'm hoping that it's something like the CPU that's easily resocketed and done, and it's just hitting the intermittent, but I've got no idea what that would be. So
this bar that goes up the screen, does it work its way backwards? And
it's not related to the character mapping, if that's what you're thinking.
No, I'm thinking of memory on a Model 1 with a bad 16K chip. It'll start up with a garbage screen, and then you wait about 30 seconds, and it goes character by character backwards up the screen, fills it with a single letter, and so the first part of repair on those, even before I get a scope out, is I put in a known good set of 16K chips and see if that continues, and then that will usually indicate if something's wrong with one of the RAM chips, and then you just test them individually and go from there. But if that's when something scrolls backwards up the screen, I look at, Tim's been in the same situation too.
It's a little different than that. So that was the symptoms the first time around, which reseating the ROM and RAM helped. Because that was doing the whole stack loop thing and pushing that up through the video display. So that was good that that was that little problem. But yeah, now it's a little intermittent. But every now and then it'll lock, or it'll stay, like when I turn it on, it'll stay on the initial garbage screen, and just it's a blank bar that's not related to the characters themselves. So it'll scroll up through. It's almost like there's a blanking row that's like, you know, like about maybe I don't know, 20% of the whole height of the screen, and it just gradually works its way up through the scan rows, and it's quite bizarre, which is what's making me think that maybe the CPU is doing something really weird. Because yeah, it's like, yeah, it's blanking through, yeah, like absolutely the whole row, and just and working its way, drifting up the screen. So yeah, it's quite
Okay.
I should shoot a video of it because it's kind of weird.
I was going to say, yeah, do you want to report back next month and tell us what the problem was?
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed I actually figure it out, because yeah, it's pretty cool.
I hate repairing those computers. I got to tell you, they use the cheapest single-sided sockets. So the sockets, after all these years, don't want to, you know, give a reliable connection to all the pins. I've had computers do weird things, and then I've just ripped out the socket, put a brand new dual slider socket in, and it works even with the part that was in there. And the other thing is they're extremely, as you'll find, the boards are extremely don't like being warmed up with the soldering rework station. You can lift a trace, you know, just by leaving it on for a half a second too long. They're horrible that way. So they're not my favorite machine to work on.
I'm scared. I'm scared on both counts, because one it's like, it's the System 80, right? So it's got those really horrible connectors between the two main boards, and between the main board and the and the keyboard, that's really quite rigid but tough to pull in and out. So you can easily bend and break a pin off that. And then on the solder side, yeah, I initially had to go at making a video cable myself, but those cheap DIN plugs are horrible, and I melted far too many of them. So yeah, I'm a little worried about the soldering side if I need to get that far. But
where's that meme of DiCaprio going?
Yeah, I did. Having said that, I did successfully recap the Model 4P. So you know, it's not all a dead loss, but I think that one's a little more forgiving.
Yeah, no, definitely. As far as difficulty factor, the System 80, I put that up at the top, not for diagnosing, but the actual physical repair of them is the trick. You know,
it was built to a price.
It definitely was. If you saw my talk, I poked a lot of fun at the System 80. Yeah,
fair call. Yeah. Cheers, Mav.
Good on you, Sean. Thanks for joining us. Let's see, Craig Skeels.
Hi. Yeah,
hey,
I haven't really done anything this month, other than a little bit of interaction on Facebook on a couple of questions and things that came up. I'm looking forward to trying to make it this year to Tandy Assembly. Last year, job fell apart, and I knew I couldn't swing it. So, yeah, maybe this year things will hold together.
It's going to be the best one. It's going to be the best one ever now, with all the flight restrictions. All the Canadians can come over, and last I heard, I don't know if it's. I'm pretty sure it will happen. Cat Mantra from Dreamland Software was thinking of coming over from the UK. So, hey, Dusty, if there's any reason for you and Mrs. Miller to come over, it's this year. So it's going to be the biggest one ever. So, yeah, it'd be good to see you there, Craig. That's for sure.
Yeah, it would be great to be there. I put it on my bucket list at this point. I'll go someday. And I'm thinking maybe one of these times, seeing someone attend this from an event that's not Tandy Assembly. I was thinking maybe sometime I'll go to a local computer museum. We've got the Living Computer Museum in Seattle. I know they've got some Tandy equipment as well as other stuff. Maybe I'll do that one of these times. Just make a day trip out there and show off the place a little bit. I don't know how many people would have seen it since everyone's around the world here. And some ideas for more immersive experience in the emulators. It is great to have those floppy sounds. And I was thinking if you could just create this constant 15K hum as well for the video. That's one thing I always knew when the TRS-80 was on, because the display made that constant high-pitched noise.
I can't hear that anymore. I've turned 30 and stopped being able to hear that. Can you believe that? I can't believe I listened to that much rock music and went to that many concerts that it buggered my hearing by 30. I can't hear a monitor. The amount of times I've gone to reach around and fiddle around with and adjust monitors that are still on, and God, they've
I tell you, after
snapped back at me.
that AC/DC concert I went to in '91, Angus Young, man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then there were cassette recorder sounds too. You could hear the motor running, you could hear the relay flip, and yeah, just kind of a clicking sound as it ran, and then the thud when it would hit the end of a tape or something. If we could emulate all that, it wouldn't do anyone any good, but it might feel just that much more perfectly immersive.
Yeah, I would love to do that stuff. And if you want to record sounds, you go ahead, because it's relatively straightforward to put in the triggers to actually make these things go off. But actually capturing the sounds and stuff is part of the difficulty.
What about, George, the groan of the operator when the star turns to a C? That's that's a universal TRS-80 sound.
Well, that's provided by the person running the program, Matt.
Yeah. I know.
Well, you could just do a tape chewing noise at that point.
No, you got to get a little graphical dial that you have to constantly adjust just right to load the program.
That would be great.
The real cassette, the TRS-80 GP, the button for the real cassette experience.
Yeah.
the least used button in TRS GP.
So when it shreds your virtual cassette. And yeah.
Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him, George. Please don't stop acting out floppy tape, dropping little bits out of it.
So you also need to add modem emulation, and we all get to go back to the modem sound days too. So.
Oh yeah, I never had one for the Model 1, but it's a good idea.
Craig, you mentioned other events besides Tandy Assembly, and we talked about this on the last podcast, but there is work going on right now on the West Coast Tandy event in the Bay Area. If you are interested in attending or possibly helping out, get in touch with me. And it's being possibly proposed by Arno Puder. Everybody knows him. So if he gets enough interest, it's something that could happen. Maybe not this year, but maybe the following year.
Where are you, Craig? Are you at
I'm up in this Seattle area. So
yeah, Bay Area of San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a drive.
It is. I do have a sister-in-law that lives out there, so maybe I would
perfect
be able to make a family trip out of it or something. And
yeah. So you mentioned the Living Computer Museum. Do they still run a VCF there yearly, or?
I've never actually been out to it. I used to work next door to it actually, and that's the job that ended this last year. I meant to stop by after work sometime, but I mostly worked from home, so I wasn't really down at the office that was next door to it much.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've always wanted to check it out and bring my family there. And
yeah, I think they ran BCF North West up there. Is that right, Peter?
I'm not sure. I'm just looking at the VCF site right now. They haven't had a VCF West in a while, it looks like.
It was 2 or 3 years ago, I think. Was
Yeah,
the-
it's sort of bad news there. They actually did have them there, but the Living Computer Museum closed down a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's
Oh, did it close down?
Yeah.
It's still physically there, and you can't tell the difference, but I didn't try and stop in, so I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's in a kind of a weird state. The story goes that, well, Paul Allen died a few years before that, and I guess the trustees of his estate are perhaps not keen on some of his projects like the Living Computer Museum, and the claim is that they sort of shut it down. But everything, as far as I know, is in terms of the collection, is still kind of in a limbo.
it's going to
I
sit in limbo
remember
until they work some way to monetize it.
I remember reading about that it had closed down. I wasn't aware that all the exhibits and everything were still there. But I'm concerned that they're not being maintained anymore.
It's a valid concern, John. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that, Craig. Anything else on your mind, or just
Yeah, not really. Just glad to attend today and keep up with it and not forget to tune in.
good on you, Craig. Thanks for joining us. Always good to have you here. Lucky last, as far as I can tell, is Paul Metcalf. Hey, dude. Nice and sunny out there. You're muted. Yeah. Unmute yourself.
My background anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Wish I was there.
We've had multiple snowstorms the past couple of weeks. Power outages for days. We don't have a backup generator here, unfortunately. So working on anything Tandy has been tough with no power. And for those who were asking on the chat, this still is not working.
Yeah, Paul, this is Tim Halloran. Reach out to me like Facebook or something. I have a couple working ones of those. So I'd love to. I brought one of them to Tandy Assembly, but you weren't there. So
yeah, no, I wasn't able to get there this past year.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm hoping for this coming year. But
it's a shame that beautiful box doesn't have a working one. So please reach out and I'll get you some.
well, the little bit of help from I think it was George Phillips on the Discord. He had a program that he had written in BASIC that seemed to show that it's stuck. Bit 1 is stuck.
Yeah.
And I haven't figured out why yet, whether it's RAM that's causing it or a wiring issue on my part, bridge solder joint or something. But I'll get to it eventually and get it figured out one of these days. Just
all right.
With everything going on and the holidays and everything, I just haven't gotten back to it. So
yeah.
But
So Paul, you need to get yourself a Model 100 for when the power's out. See, then you can get your retro on.
Or PC2.
There we go. So, but hopefully, this has been a couple of times, about a monthly occurrence so far. Hopefully, no more after this one. Great state of New Hampshire here is well known for its forests, and somehow forests, tree limbs, and power lines don't mix. So it's that's pretty much where I've been up to. Been toying with the idea, looking into. I know Peter Satinsky had mentioned something on the Discord server under the FujiNet Discord server about FujiNet. I don't know if anybody had gotten involved on that on our group's end in any way, or
Not that I'm aware of. Nobody's moved forward.
I've got one for my Atari here. Let me see if I can get it to focus in on it. Yeah. And it works great with the Atari. And it would be fantastic if we could do something like that for Model 1, 3, 4, 2, 16, 100, whatever whoever wants to implement, even the Coco guys, you know.
Somebody take on that project.
My skills are, I could probably build them, but engineer them so they actually work. Well, you got to get the Chroma TRS working first.
I thought there was one already for the Coco, but I'm sitting here looking through the list and I don't see any Tandy anything.
No, I know the ZX Spectrum guys are hard and heavy on it. The Apple II guys. I think there's a Commodore 64 version that's definitely in the works.
There's even an Atom.
Yeah, even
Not
the
to
Atom.
mention the Atari Lynx.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the Atom, one of the most useless computers I ever remember.
I made this comment today in the Discord that given the size of our community, almost anyone can become like the world's leading expert in a particular niche of the TRS-80. So if somebody wants to become the world's expert on TRS-80 FujiNet, you just have to pick up the project and start working on it, and you will be the go-to person that people go to. So take it up, man. Somebody pick it up.
Yeah.
I also get the feeling from looking at the FujiNet stuff that it doesn't require too much in terms of the hardware, and something like the TRS-NIC or TRS-IO or other sort of network style adapters probably would work with the system. It's just a matter of writing the software.
Well, I know the Atari version, it uses the Atari's SIO port, which is basically serial interface, and it's I'm sure it's just some sort of like gal chip or something, and if it's programmed with the software to make it emulate everything it emulates, because that's pretty much all it does. It emulates a whole mess of peripherals and gives you disk drive capability right there on an micro SD card, and but I don't know I know the main reason originally was a Wi-Fi type of project, and then it kind of evolved into all kinds of peripherals that it emulates. So sort of like a all-in-one kind of package. It's they worked it out for the Atom pretty well, from what I understand, and the next one I hear that we're going to release is going to be for the Apple II. And the Atari one's been the established one for a while, so maybe like Peter says, one of us needs to take the ball and run with it. I don't know. My programming skills and my engineering skills on this stuff is not that fantastic, so I'm not the guy. If somebody else wants to, I'll be there to support them with it. Other than that, not much else going on Tandy wise for me.
Cool. Thanks for that, Paul. Always good to have you along here, and hopefully we get to meet you at Tandy Assembly this year. So
yeah, I'm talking with the girlfriend about it, and we're seeing what we're gonna, we can get for vacation time to do, and hopefully we can do it this year. So
yep. I was hoping to have some Coco people here today so they could tell us about their upcoming event, Coco Fest, which is only a month or two away, but no one here. If anyone has any ideas on how to get some Coco representation in here, this isn't just for the monochrome systems. We've always encompassed anything that's got Tandy written on it, so it would be good to hear.
We're all inclusive.
I used to listen to like a weekly Coco Talk thing that they did.
The one that goes for 4 hours a week.
Yeah, it got to be real long, and then I couldn't find it recently. I noticed I'm not getting notifications that it started. And does anyone listen to those? Are they still going?
They
Or do you
switched
know?
to Coco Nation now. It's Coco
Yeah, they've
Nation.
rebranded themselves Coco Nation, and I think they've extended from 4 hours up to 6 hours now.
Wow.
So it I mean I like Cocos, but with all respect to them, I can't do 3, 4, or 6 hours.
Yeah.
And
I'd be more inclined to do it for the older, more nostalgic machine myself.
Yeah. And but there is an alternative with Neil Blanchard and Boise and who's our other friend, Peter?
John Linville,
John Linville and
Mike Rowan.
Mike Rowan, called the Coco Crew, and they do a 1 a month 1 hour podcast, which I have running in the background when they release it, because it just it runs for about the right amount of time, and they bring all the news and everything up to date. So that's the one I listen to. But not to take anything away from the long form Coco Nation podcast. It's just I haven't got the patience to listen to something for that long. Even sports or or anything else I'm interested in. That's just asking a bit much of my time. But yeah,
Speaking
we'll
of
see if we can get some.
Speaking of podcasts, we need to do another one soon.
We have to do another one soon. We definitely do.
Yeah.
But yeah, more Coco coverage this year, I think we need, and maybe a Tandy 1000 person. Am I asking too much, do you reckon? Or we'll have to reach out to some of the people
the Coco never didn't do a lot in the UK because it was obviously competing against the Spectrum, the ZX Spectrum. It was about 3 times the price at one time, I remember. So, Tandy just didn't sell many at all, I don't think.
Yeah, taxation meant that they were expensive here as well, and Australia really sort of embraced the C64, but those that did embrace the Coco sort of formed clubs, and it does have a small but loyal following here. But truth of the fact is, of all the Coco products I make, practically all of them go to the US and Canada. So yeah. All right, so we're coming up to 1 hour 40 minutes. Might wrap this up early. Anyone got any last things they want to mention before we go?
Yeah, I think if you all promise not to laugh, I don't know if you know, in the UK, everybody's striking. The nurses are on strike, the train drivers are striking, the railway workers are striking, air, ambulance, everything. And to cap it all, the postmen, they've been striking, but the Royal Mail handles letters and Parcel Force handles parcels. Good, yeah, right. Not only have we got all these strikes going on, but it seems the UK's Parcel Force has been hacked and we can no longer send or receive international parcels. Now, I've got a pile of discs ready for Ira, and I said to him, I won't send them before Christmas because I'll only get lost in all the chaos of the Christmas mail because it's hopeless in here. And I said, I'll wait till January and get them off. But we're still being asked not to send stuff abroad and they can't get it out or in. So there you go. Hey, great start to 2023, yeah?
Well, to be English is to strike. I mean, I was watching what was going on there in the 1970s. So it's, never really went away. That's their solution. At least it's non-violent striking, I suppose. And my interesting mail story for this time is a lot of people who know me. My least favorite place to send stuff to is South America, and with good reason. They're rubbish at delivering stuff, and even when they do, it takes weeks and weeks and months. And so in last week, 3 different things I'd sent to 3 different people. With tracking and everything, mind you, to Brazil, all came back to me. I had to refund the people because they were sent. The Brazilian postal service said they're lost, and so I just had to refund the sellers, and so no, I'm not sending stuff to South America anymore. And then these three things came back from Brazil. One had been sent in 2020, in June 2020. It finally made its way back to me. So the only thing I can guess is that while the world was in the throes of the pandemic lockdown, the mail system just sort of said, you know what, we just can't be bothered. Let's just put it away. And then eventually, now once this year or last year has sort of returned to normality, someone in the postal service said, why have we got a 60-foot high pile of mail, undelivered mail there? Are we going to deliver it, or are we just going to send it back to the countries it came from? Just put it in a skid and send it back where it came from. No one will notice. So I've got three things back from Brazil, one from 2020 and two from 2021. They survived all right, not damaged, but it just South America, probably a great place at times, but you don't want to send stuff there.
We're still receiving Christmas cards. We had one last week.
That's funny.
It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
England, the land of the Christmas card. If you've ever seen Grumpy Guide to Christmas from about 15 years ago, a BBC program, apparently English hate Christmas cards. I think it's the most useless thing they've ever invented. Gotta love it. All right, any last words, people?
Yeah, did you see that story? Was it from Yetsko on Facebook about the rummy buzzard?
I'm aware of the story. Did he recently tell it again?
He recently retold it again. I guess for those who haven't heard, there was a release of Tristos 1.2 for the Model 3, which happened to have, which would happen to display you rummy buzzard or something like that. If you typed out a particular batch file, I think the 50 hertz one, hertz 50.bld, something like that. Because when they mastered it, they had a bug which extended the files, and they'd fixed that, but that still had garbage in the mastering, and that one file did have this extra date on it, which happened to have that garbage string into it. And so his story recalls how this came up on a customer's machine, and they were quite angry about it, but it got sorted out in the end. But I did a little look to see if I could find any Tristos images out there with the string in it, and I didn't do a comprehensive search, but I couldn't find it. So I'm kind of curious if it's ever been imaged.
Must have been a very early release of 1.2, and if you remember, 1.3 is the common one for the Model 3. So that's I don't know. It's not the first time that unwanted code has ended up into Tandy's disks for distribution or their computers. The Coco 3 and the 3 Amigos picture.
Yeah.
My lawyer has advised I do not comment on that.
Did that go around the shack towers at times, did it, John?
Yeah, I did. I remember the Hello You Rummy Buzzard. That was the management just, I mean, they turned purple. It was terrible. No, the one that we got busted for was the Shut Her Down, Scotty, She's Sucking Mud Again.
Yeah, which I think, doesn't sound that, it sounds more funny than
business-like, and you will not put this in our software. And they're like, oh, okay, no sense of humor. I should have guessed.
Yeah, no sense of humor. All right, everyone, I think we're done. Done and dusted for another month. Back same time next month. I'm off to Canada in a couple of days, so I hope it's cold. I mean, snowy. That's why I go, because I get sick of summer, which you guys don't want to hear. But